Good afternoon. My name is Brad Harrison, BradHarrison. We're here to talk to you guys today about a proposed ordinance that's being voted on by Metro Council actually tomorrow. The proposed ordinance is a restriction on use of force by LMPD. There was a preliminary vote with the Public Safety Committee within Metro Council last week, and there was a 4-3 vote against this particular ordinance. However, it does go for full vote tomorrow. We are out here today advocating for the passage of this ordinance. This use of force ordinance is important because on the heels of the Breonna Taylor case, we feel it will hold officers accountable when they violate LMPD policy. As we all know, or we all seen, Louisville police officers have a history of violating policy. And often when those policies are violated, there's very, very rarely a substantial consequence for those violations. I'm going to read for you, there are 8 stipulations to this ordinance. And I'm paraphrasing here, and the full ordinance is online on Metro Council site. But number 1 is the banning of chokeholds and strangleholds. Number 2 is implementing de-escalation techniques. Number 3 are officers are required to give clear, audible warnings prior to the use of deadly force. Number 4, officers are required to exhaust all alternative uses of force prior to using firearms. Number 5, officers are required to act to stop or prevent any other officer from using unlawful excessive force. Number 6, officers are banned from discharging their firearms either at or from a moving vehicle unless deadly use of force is being used against the officer or another person. Number 7, officers are required to utilize the lowest level of force necessary to gain control of a suspect. Number 8, officers are required to report physical uses of force, threats of physical use of force, and the pointing of firearms. And these are the 8 stipulations that are proposed for the new ordinance and is sponsored by Councilwoman Jessica Green and Councilman Brandon Cohn. We feel this ordinance is important. Number 1, I can give you some examples of policy violations. We learned with Brett Hagerson there were policy violations back in 2016 when he ran over another officer with his vehicle. That was a violation of department policy. However, that violation process spanned out over 4 years. At the end of 4 years, he was only suspended for 4 days. We have Brett Hagerson again. He violated department policy when he fired shots through Breonna Taylor's window without a clear, visible target in sight. Those violations were clear from day one. However, it took months to remove Hagerson from the force. We have incidents with the Explorer program. We have policy violations that spanned over 10 years. With the Explorer case, there were sexual abuse allegations against officers for over 10 years, and they basically went unheard, unaddressed. With this ordinance will not only hold officers accountable legally for violating company policy, but it should also encourage officers to run a better department. That's the goal here. The goal isn't to target officers for criminal prosecution. The goal is for LMPD to give the citizens of Louisville the best police department possible. We feel with these safeguards and these parameters around officers, it will ensure the public that they are getting the best police force that their tax dollars are paying for. We have a couple other people here that would like to speak. We have the aunt of Breonna Taylor.
Sorry.
I'll let you introduce yourself, and she can speak as well.
Hello, my name's Bianca Austin, and as you know, I'm the aunt of Breonna Taylor. We just think it's very important that these reforms that they're voting on tomorrow are very important, because had we had these in place, you know, we may still have Breonna here to this day. And also, we want, this shows This will be something that can hold these police officers accountable, more transparency, and it doesn't take, a raise. It just takes human decency and some training to pass these reforms. So we just think it's very important that every last one of them get voted on tomorrow, and we just hope that that they press the issue, just how important it is, just not only just moving forward as we can heal as a community and move forward, but and develop that relationship with the police officers moving forward. So that's all I have to say.
Again, use of force is an issue. Excessive use of force is an issue within the police department in the city of Louisville. We ask that the public please consider putting pressure on the council people to pass this particular ordinance. Again, the goal is to ensure that we have a better police force. There was some concerns from Chief Gentry with this ordinance, and one of her concerns was that the policies, a lot of these policies are already LMPD policies. We do understand that, and we understand that LMPD has committed to making their department better. However, there is a serious trust issue between the Louisville Police Department and the community of Louisville. We feel a city law that will hold officers responsible will help bridge the gap between LMPD and the citizens of Louisville. So, with that said, we have Mr. Richard Whitlock.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. My name is Richard Whitlock, Jr., WHITLOCK, and these reforms are really important for our city to start healing. If Metro Council has heard anything from the citizens of this city over the last 7 months, they're going to let us know tomorrow night with this vote. What this piece of legislation is about it's not about criminalizing police brutality. What it's about is making sure that citizens have their civil rights when police brutality occurs. That citizens and visitors of this city have their civil rights when police brutality happens. Unfortunately, when those cases have happened in the past, there's something called qualified immunity, where police officers can actually violate the civil rights of people, and there would be no accountability there. And that's what this is really about. This is really about justice for all of the citizens in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, and for all the visitors of Louisville, Kentucky, saying, hey, when you come to our city, if you live in this city, LMPD is going to treat you appropriately. It's going to treat you like you have civil rights that's worth being dignified and also legislated. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wes Tolbert. Let me start by saying I do work with Black Lives Matter, and it is still the belief and the demand of Black Lives Matter that the officers be fired in this particular case. You will hear critiques from well-meaning administration within LMPD saying that these ordinances will prevent future chiefs of police from having the leeway to, create the type of department that they want. But if it is in fact true that that statement is true, we wouldn't need these ordinances in the first place. Mm-hmm. They're being put in place, or we're moving to have them put in place because the system and the structures that are currently governing us aren't working equally for all the people that they should. You can get more information at investdivest.org. That is a site that Black Lives Matter runs, and it can show you where police dollars are going and how the council is funding citywide and how much money goes to the LMPD versus other institutions which could use that funding. It is important for us to dignify the humanity of every individual in this city, and that's what these ordinances move to do. is to take us from a place where the police have a disproportionate amount of power and very little oversight, and leveling the playing field. Again, these ordinances would not be necessary if the institutional rules of LMPD were reflected in the police's public conduct. If reality speaks, because we wouldn't need to push these ordinances if LMPD had a culture that was prepared to hold their officers accountable. We've witnessed over the last more than 145 days now how when power is not checked and when it goes unaccounted for, then we have these systemic issues that perpetuate violence against black and brown bodies. And it's the fact that the LMPD and the Metro Council even have to deliberate at this level that these things are necessary is part of the problem. We wouldn't need to produce these individual ordinances if the systems were working as they were designed to. But the systems are working how they were designed to disproportionately inflict bodily harm and violence against certain populations. And so I just urge you to talk to your council members and to push and persuade them and let them know your voices and your concerns as to why it is important that these ordinances get passed. You can find out more information about how the council, their expenditures are kind of laid out at investdivest.org. And yes, arrest the cops. My last name is Tolbert, Tolbert, first name West.
Without the T, without the T.
Good afternoon. My name is LeBron Seeds, Lebron, last name Seay. And it's simple. One thing that I've seen over these past few months is that Louisville has done something that it's never done before, and that's come together as a community. Yeah. And now it's time for everyone to come together as a community. And we stand here today as a community showing that we do stand in unison. The cops do need to be fired. We need justice for Breonna Taylor still. And we as a community need to stand up and start taking our community back. And one of the ways is to stand together. And one of the ways we will stand together in this situation is we will get in touch with our council folks and let them know that they do need to pass this ordinance. I appreciate Brad, I appreciate Rich in pulling this situation together. This is definitely needed, and we need to stand as a people. And now's the time that we can show that we stand in unison. This ordinance needs to be passed.
We're going to end on this note. However, we urge everyone watching to contact your council person, put pressure on your council person to pass this ordinance. The vote is tomorrow, so you would need to call, write, email, text today. Before we leave, we also want to address de-escalation is a major part of this ordinance. Look, we have to understand, we can't walk away from Breonna Taylor's death without policy. We just can't do it. We have to have policy. De-escalation is a big part of that policy. We are dealing with a city, we're dealing with a country that is dealing with drug issues. We're dealing with a country that's dealing with mental health issues. We're dealing with a country that's dealing with homelessness issues. Part of de-escalation is training the police to deal with people that are suffering from these disorders. We understand that we don't want our police officers to put themselves in a lot of fire and die helping the public, but we don't want the police officers to feel that every situation needs to be solved by using their firearm. There are people in this community that are hurting, that have issues, and de-escalation should be the first measure in saving lives. Tomorrow is the vote. Tomorrow you guys have a chance. The city of Louisville has a chance to force the city to adopt city law, to adopt policy. That's a step further. We're still fighting. We got information yesterday that Daniel Cameron wasn't fully truthful with the results of the grand jury process. We're fighting, we as citizens, as taxpayers that pay police officers, that pay Daniel Cameron's salary. We shouldn't have to fight for transparency. Every single step of Breonna Taylor's death, of David McAtee's death, is a fight for transparency. We are paying these people salary, and we have to wait 7 or 8 months before an investigation file is released to the public, and then it's not fully released. We find that Daniel Cameron split up the grand jury process, decided that officers weren't going to face murder charges, and only gave the grand jury the case against Brett Hankinson, which is wanton endangerment. That is not how our system is supposed to work. He wasn't honest. Daniel Cameron made a decision and then hid behind the grand jury and tricked the public into believing that the grand jury decided the entire case. That's the farthest thing from the truth. We elect people because we expect them to represent the people. We expect them to have transparency. We expect them to be honest. When we have dishonest characters, we have to remove them from office, and we have to vote in people that are actually representing the people. Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate you.